Yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy, the United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked. I regret to tell you that very many American lives have been lost. As Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy, no matter how long it may take us to overcome this premeditated invasion, the American people in their righteous might will win through to absolute victory.
This is a solemn but glorious hour. I wish that Franklin D. Roosevelt had lived to see this day. General Eisenhower informs me that the forces of Germany have surrendered to the United Nations. The flags of freedom fly all over Europe.
Looking back through the lens of 78 years of history, we must recognize the impact and legacy this endeavor and sacrifice has left in the modern world. The veil of time has turned the invasion of Europe into war stories and fables. Most of us did not live it. They are maps and pictures in a book, and we have lost the personal nature of such a monumental undertaking.
My name's Andrew Biggio. I'm a Marine Corps veteran and author of the best-selling book, The Rifle. It's been 5 years since I started the mission to have World War II veterans sign my M1 Grand. And now I have interviewed, met, and received the signatures of over 300 World War II veterans, including taking over 30 of them back overseas to the countries they liberated.
Glory, glory, what a hell of a way to die. Glory, glory, what a hell of a way to die.
I did these interviews, wrote the book, and began taking veterans on a journey back overseas because I realized many of the World War II veterans had never returned to the battlefields they served on nearly 80 years ago. It's been both a therapeutic mission for young veterans, old veterans, and being able to close out the last chapter of these World War II veterans' lives here in the United States. I decided to put pen to paper, write this book in a fashion that no other World War II book had been written, in order to open up the secrets of America's last World War II veterans through an M1 Grand. The Rifle was their microphone, and I was proud to share their story in this book. I had realized many of the veterans had never returned to the European theater where they once served. And I figured I'd ask the question, would you go back now? I was surprised to find out that many of the veterans told me yes, they would go back to Europe finally. I thought this was an important journey for people to see that these remaining World War II veterans wanted to close out the last chapter of their lives, going back to where they saw and witnessed some of the most ferocious fighting during the Second World War. This particular trip is very important because we'll be taking 4 World War II veterans back to the 77th anniversary of D-Day in France.
It's exactly what we came through right here.
Is it really?
Unbelievable, huh? It has not changed.
We'll also be going to the Netherlands, a little bit of Germany, and Belgium, where these veterans served. What's very unique about this trip is we have such a diverse group of individuals returning to their battlefields. We have Bob, who served the 10th Armored Division during the Battle of the Bulge and the push into Germany. We have Robert, who jumped in on the morning of June 6th into Normandy. We have Marvin, one of the last African-American veterans who went through combat in World War II, landing on Utah Beach. And we have John, a Dutch linguist who served the 7th Armored Division as a translator, seeing heavy amounts of combat. As the World War II veteran continues to fade, It is so important that I had documented these men's story in my book, as well as walked their footsteps in the European theater of operations during World War II. Their legacy will last forever thanks to these writings and this documentary. Like any good military operation, our trip began with a briefing. I wanted to invite all the volunteers, veterans, and those attending the trip to gather in my house before we headed to the airport. This is my little pep talk about this trip. Is it going to be hectic? Yes. Is it going to be successful? Yes. Yeah. This is probably my 10th trip with World War II veterans and my last one, I think, going back over. I typically avoid anniversary dates. We're going on June 6th. And the reason why I do that typically is because we're talking hundreds of thousands of people are going to be everywhere. So it becomes hectic for us. However, we have so little World War II veterans left that I think it's super important for you guys to be there on June 6th for the 78th anniversary of D-Day, and because they haven't had a celebration in almost 2.5, 3 years because of COVID. We're definitely going to have amazing time, amazing spotlight, and I have aimed the whole trip of bringing you guys to your individual points of where you served, the battlefield you served on, where you were stationed. First in priority is your comfortability and your health. I can see it's going to get very busy when we bring Robert back to his drop zone. Robert jumped in with the 82nd Airborne in Normandy. I know everyone's going to want to swarm him. You know, I've seen veterans react all differently. I've seen guys get very emotional on these trips. And we want to give them their privacy. We want to give them their moment, and that's huge. Giving everybody a briefing of the trip is important. I want them to know what to expect when we land in Holland, where we're going to be going, and how overwhelming it will be with the supporters that are going to be gathered to meet these World War II veterans. For some people, it may be the first and last time they've ever seen a liberator of their country. Arriving to the airport, we were greeted by both Massport and the Mass State Police. The airlines were very cooperative, and the state police helped us get our elderly veterans through security with no problem, collected everyone's passports, and even helped us bring luggage to the plane. They knew how important this trip was for our World War II veterans. The airline staff made sure we were able to board first, and I saw a lot of people helping us, greeting us, waving us on, and wishing us good luck. It was then I realized what effect that these veterans had on the lives of not just the people we were going to visit, but everyone local in Boston as well. As soon as we arrived in Amsterdam, the excitement began to grow. I knew we were in for a great trip, and especially it made the veterans feel happy when the stewardess wanted to take a photo with them.
Andrew,
Here!
I got one.
Let me take a picture, wait.
Wait, one more.
It's such an honor.
You got it.
Such an honor. You don't have any trouble with the ladies, huh?
Don't get them started on this.
Oh, yeah.
In the rear we have Marvin Gilmore. Closest to me we have Big Bob W. Weber.
Hello.
Then we have the Chow Hound himself, Johnny A. Where's Rob? Robbie. Mr. Paratrooper. Welcome back to Holland.
When the sun rose on that fateful day, the Nazis invaded the Netherlands. Without warning or the slightest provocation, they unleashed upon their innocent neighbor the full terror and fury of a devastating blitzkrieg.
There is no blinking at the fact that our people, our territory, and our interests are in grave danger.
As soon as the bus started rolling, I knew what our first destination was going to be. It was going to be Groesbeek, Holland, where Robert Heurgue had landed with the 82nd Airborne some 77 years ago. He had never been back to his drop zone in Holland, and I couldn't wait for him to show me everything and tell the story about his landing during Operation Market Garden.
Across the skies of Western Europe, a message of strength and hope was written by these soldiers of the skies.
While we were there, we met with Tulay, who is an 82nd Airborne historian and a Dutch military veteran.
I'm Tulay from Manen. I work at the Dutch Army Staff, and I'm involved in requesting and getting approval of several World War II awards.
She presented Robert with his Dutch lanyard for taking part in the Holland operation during Operation Market Garden.
In 1945, our queen awarded the 82nd Airborne Division with the Order of William, which is our highest award of valor, and it's equivalent to the Medal of Honor. And to give every member of the 82nd Airborne Division who fought in Holland in September and October 1944, our queen awarded every member a memento for the heroic actions and the brave actions against the Nazis to help us liberate from Nazi tyranny. I would like to present you.
Thank you.
So much. Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you, guys and girls, for being here.
On the drop zone were two other 82nd Airborne active duty service members. They were totally pumped to meet Robert from all the stories they heard of those who jumped into Holland during combat operations.
One house in this great big field.
Only one?
One single house that could be. One of the men landed on the house.
He landed on the house?
He landed on the house and broke his leg.
That's crazy.
One house on a big field.
And you just happened to land on it.
On the drop zone was a memorial to those who landed by glider during those combat operations. During Operation Market Garden, the 82nd Airborne and the 101st Airborne suffered many casualties to try to liberate the Dutch people. A great thing that happens when we're standing on these battlegrounds is that memories come back to these veterans. Robert Heurgue had been talking about that tree line for a long time, and there it was, right off the landing zone where he ran to take cover and dig in.
I'd say I landed halfway between the field, between in the middle, and we went into the woods because we thought, well, maybe the Germans would be coming.
Yes.
Robert had pointed out to the tree line that that's where he took cover after landing some 77 years ago. It was truly a historic moment to be on his drop zone again and his first visit back.
We got quite a bit of shelling.
Yes.
They had shell that exploded up in the top of the trees.
Yeah.
So the shrapnel came down.
With the unbounding determination of our people, we will gain the inevitable triumph, so help us God.
The people of Holland, we're very thankful that you guys landed here and helped us, liberate us.
Holland, the people were very glad to see us.
But we still are. We still are.
As we left the drop zone in Groesbeek, we headed to the Overloon Museum. This was going to be my first book signing in Holland, and I knew it was going to be special for John Althuizen's family, who was originally from the Netherlands. He was going to be getting his Dutch veterans pin, where he'd be recognized by the country of the Netherlands as a World War II veteran, something that hadn't happened before when he was just a linguist.
Congratulations.
As everybody was enjoying lunch and relaxing, we had to break away and set up for the book signing in the museum. One of the things I loved about this location is that the museum had lots of great things to take in, from tanks, trucks, planes, armored cars, cannons, uniforms, and backdrop scenes of different battlefields. I had to stop sometimes and take it in and realize that I was having my own piece of history by being able to conduct a book signing amongst these great features. I was absolutely blown away at the line of people that were there to get their rifle book signed, as well as their relics. Yes, I know they were there for the World War II veterans themselves, but so many were privileged to meet me as the author and a veteran of both Iraq and Afghanistan as well. They truly made me feel special, but more importantly, they made each of those World War II veterans know how important it is for them to be free. Not only were there adults there, but there were parents bringing their young kids to introduce them to real-life heroes. I was interviewed by local journalists as well as fellow World War II enthusiast Joel Stoppels.
So it's a popular book.
Yeah, it is, and a lot of people said a lot of nice things about me today, about don't stop what you're doing, you're a great historian, we're looking forward to the Rifle Part 2, and they're the motivation, they really are. It's unbelievable. I have really great turnouts for book signings in America, but there's nothing compared to the appreciation for World War II veterans like that is here in Europe.
When is Part 2 coming?
I should be done by the end of the summer, but we have amazing, great stories. 2 of the stories are behind me right now. Volume 2, it's going to be unbelievable.
How was the book signing?
Well, it went pretty well, I think. And Marv was a good companion here to pass it on to.
And how is it for you to see all these people?
Oh, yeah, I'm amazed at this big turnout. Yeah, thanks to all of these folks who made the effort to come and see us and to get the book. And once again, I can't say enough nice things about Andy.
Being 98 years, I've been around for a long time. My grandma, she did 107, so I got a few more years left in life. But also see the younger generation that we have fought for their lives and for their future. But today, to see the enthusiasm, they came to say thank you for your service. It's pretty wonderful to listen to hear it, and be part of that. I never thought we lived this long, having fought on D-Day, but I'm here today. I want to thank all the supporters for Andrew Bizio and the people that came out and said thank you.
Before heading to our hotel in Belgium, we had one more stop. Local historians were going to take us to where John Althuizen saw his first combat in Holland. Our tour guide was showing us bunkers, foxholes, and maps on where John had been during combat operations with the 7th Armored Division.
Just when we were talking about the first day of battle, John was coming with the Americans from Deurne, which is over the railway. And John joined the Americans that day, and immediately he was in the fight. And in this area there was a hard fight because they were heading to Helena Veen, but the Germans came back and they chased them out of their boxes, foxhole.
It was truly inspirational to be on some sacred battleground. As we headed to La Roche, Belgium, the city in which our hotel was located in, I had realized it had been 36 hours since we left, and it was just day 1. As I looked out the window as we drove, I realized the trip was just beginning, and I couldn't be more excited to even sit down and have dinner with these veterans and welcome them back to Europe 77 years later. Our hotel was located in the historic town of La Roche, Belgium, liberated by both the Americans and the British.
For the second time in this conflict, the roads of Belgium feel the angry touch of war. And Germans again experience the twist of fortune. Overlords yesterday, captives today, feeling the lash of scorn. Some shed tears at their miserable lot. The tears won't help them.
You have no idea, at 17 years old, having to face the enemy, going forward and the guns shooting from the hill down to us, and the dead body dropping down. In the field, you had to go forward in the water, soaking wet, but they keep moving, remove those trucks, get them up, clean them up real fast. You had no time to even think to move.
You joined the Army when you were 17?
Yeah.
You must have volunteered.
I did, 111.
Oh, you were
1184. That's my
sucker
number.
for punishment.
I know that,
What'd you do that
my
for?
social security number.
They didn't draft until you were 18. 18 to 38.
I just was in high school, and I wanted to go where I wanted to go. That didn't happen at that time.
So,
if you're drafted, they tell you you're going to be digging ditches with an infantryman.
So your serial number started with a 1 if you volunteered.
That's right.
Okay.
Then, as now, Brussels had been freed after 4 years of occupation by the Boche. Now, as then, the Belgian people went wild with joy and enthusiasm.
In the morning, we got together for breakfast and got to meet two of my favorite tour guides, Joel Lamberti and Reg Jans.
My family is linked to the Battle of the Bulge because my parents were 10 and 6 during the battle. So I grew up with those Battle of the Bulge stories. And today it's a very special day because we will visit my hometown, Bielsan, where the 82nd and the 7th Armored Division, two of the veterans are from those outfits. So it's my birthplace, and so it linked with my family story, so it's very important to me.
What we'll be doing today is basically doing some 82nd Airborne stuff. We go to the sides of the 7th Armored Division and a little bit of parts of the northern arch of the Bulge as well. So it's going to be a long day, it's going to be a lot of driving. There's also going to be a lot of history.
These are two Belgian locals who absolutely love World War II history, entirely dedicated, and have deep respect for our veterans. As the bus started rolling, I looked around at the beautiful landscape, as well as those we had on the bus. I often wondered what it looked like in the 1940s for these young men to be marching through this kind of territory. Kicking off the day, it was important to see two monuments right away. One for the 82nd Airborne. This was important because it was Robert's first return to the area he served in the Battle of the Bulge. This would have been impossible without Joel Lamberti and Reg Jans leading the way.
We are in front of the headquarters of the 82nd Airborne Division. They were there between the 22 and the 24 of December. And then they made that tactical withdrawal, and it became the front line then. We were on the front line till January. It was the command post of one of the regiment, the 508. So the castle is still the same. You can still see some bullet holes on the stones on the arc of the window, certainly made by shrapnel or bullets during the battle.
Robert was listening and taking it all in as we began to explain to him where he was, that this was his unit first gathered before they entered combat in the winter of 44 and 45.
On the ground for the 82nd here in the Battle of the Bulge is right here in Vermont.
And when they detruck, they have no idea where the Germans were. So it's crazy to know, but when they were detrucking, absolutely not prepared to combat, the Kampfgruppe paper, so one of the mightiest German force in the attack, was just down in the valley 5 kilometers. So we are here at the Thiers du Mont Memorial. Thiers du Mont is the name of the place. And it's one of the bloodiest battles of the 508, so one of the regiment of the 82nd Division. They have to come from that hill in the distance and to cross a large open field just in front of the German defense on the hill on that side with 88 guns.
After lunch, we arrived in the town of Wallerode. This is where John Althuizen was first wounded with the 7th Armored Division, ambushed by SS troops.
You took very good care of this unit, and this unit took good care of you.
Oh, yeah. Very good. Even though I was a scout, you know, Johnny, you
Hey,
want more?
it's all right.
Oh, yeah.
My grandfather was in the 10th Armored, but because, you know, that was the best one. But, no, I'm kidding. Lucky 7 made its mark in history.
Yeah. Well,
let's go see the tank a little. Want to see a little? All right, I got you. It's for everyone who fought in St. Vith. We had time to visit a white farmhouse that was used by both the Germans and the Americans during the back and forth struggle. There's all these bullet holes and shrapnel.
Oh, yeah, right.
You recognize that, John?
I'm proud to be here with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Our next stop that I thought was fitting, especially for Marvin, who served in a segregated unit during World War II, was the town of Wereth. In the town of Wereth was a monument dedicated to 11 African American soldiers who were captured and murdered by the Germans during World War II. So, Marvin, what I wanted to explain to you where we are, okay? The 333rd Field Artillery Battalion was an all-black unit.
New Jersey.
Okay. 11 of them were in here having lunch. The civilians were being nice to them.
That these 11 soldiers were there, welcomed into this home and warmed and nourished. But unfortunately, you know, it ended in tragedy.
But 2 German officers in a Jeep, somebody told them where they were. Those men were then captured and then they were executed. This family has preserved where these men have been eating lunch and have built a memorial to them right down the street. So they want to show you.
You know, I have the book on the 333rd.
Really?
I didn't even know this.
Really? And this is where they were captured, so now I'm going to show you where they were. Yep. This is Marvin Gilmore.
Yeah. Hello, Marvin. My name is Solange. Solange de Kaiser. How are you?
I am fine.
You're fine?
Yeah, I am wonderfully fine.
Well, that's wonderful. And this is Peter. He is the son of Katrina. He owns the house now. Okay. And but he wants to keep the house and the part where the 11 soldiers eat. He wants to keep it like it was originally.
It's a great tribute to do
so
that.
we're really happy to welcome you here, and we will show you the place.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Go, buddy. Really took in like a sponge what these 11 men had to go through. It was like he felt what they felt. He knew what they knew, but Marvin was luckier because he had never been captured.
So the 11 soldiers were from the 333 Field Artillery Battalion, and they were fighting in Schönberg. And some of them were captured, and 11 soldiers could escape, and they came over there from through the woods.
Right.
They arrived here in Wereth. You know, at that time Wereth has only 9 houses. Actually it's 14 houses, but it's a very small village. And here was living the family Langer. It was Matthias and Maria Langer. They at that time had already 6 children. And the 11 soldiers came right here at the door, and knocked at the door because, you know, it was December 44, it was very cold. And Maria and Matthias let them in. You must remember, you must think about at that time, they never saw Afro-American people. You know, it's the first black man that they saw. So they let the 11 men coming in, and this is the original table. This is the place. Well, it's a table that you can take out.
Yeah.
But it's over 200 years. And so they could sit down here, and they gave them some food and some drinks to the 11 soldiers. And of course, like a big part of this area, you know, sometimes it depends which war. They were Belgian, then they were German.
Right.
So you had always people, they volunteer with the Germans. You have naturally also some who were against, but one person saw that the American came in here and told the Nazi about it. So after 1 hour, 1.5 hours, Nazi came and wanted to capture the 11 soldiers. And the soldiers surrendered directly because they didn't want the family to get in trouble. So they went out from here, and then they walked behind, in the front of a jeep from the Nazi. They walked all the way down there until the memorial that we will show you.
But it was quite intense, I know, for him to be at that table, but at the same time knowing that he had this opportunity to represent so many untold stories of African-American soldiers in World War II, his being one of them, at least undertold.
Right down the street from the home was the official monument site for the 11. And lo and behold, as we pulled up to the monument site, there was a group of ROTC cadets from Virginia Tech. Here they were in the middle of nowhere in Belgium, getting a tour and reading about the story about these 11 African-American soldiers who were killed.
So ROTC means what?
Reserve Officer Training Corps. These are future officers in the U.S. Army, Navy, and Air Force.
Someday. Okay.
You're learning about the Wereth 11.
I know they're interested in World War II history because they're going to be Army officers themselves soon, but when that bus pulled up and those doors opened and Marvin stepped out.
And next thing you know, a living representation of this storyline approaches Memorial, and they were just, I don't think they blinked for about 3 hours. So
I want you to be real in whatever you do and be honest about it. That's so important in life. And always be able to tell the truth. That's the main thing. If I wasn't able to tell the truth, I wouldn't be here today. You follow what I'm saying? And believe in yourself. Please believe in yourself. And don't be afraid. Don't be a coward. Stand up where you feel is right. And make sure everybody understands that. Me being African American, I had to prove myself no matter what I did. But I proved it. And I became very successful by proving it, you know? And always say to yourself, if you can do it, I can do it. Remember that now. At 98, I'm still here. I'm now with you. So maybe I'm here for a reason to talk to you today, to say, oh, I'm proud of you. I want you to be proud of what we fought and died for. My life and my brother's life, he was in the Marines, you know, he passed away. It was Gilmore, the war there. We paid our dues. And I know I paid my dues. For all of you, for all of you. It wasn't for Marvin, it's for all American young people coming up. So don't let me down, please.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
To the U.S. Military Cemetery at Ham, Luxembourg, and that's where General Patton is buried, and also there's about 200 men from the 10th Armored Division buried there, 10 of whom were from my company, Company A of the 54th Armored Infantry Battalion, and they include driver. I had one time was the company runner between the company and battalion headquarters, and my driver, Dana Goodwin of Fitchburg, Massachusetts, did that for me until I was relieved of the job. But on the 5th of March, the captain decided to promote Dana, who was a PFC, to communications sergeant, and unfortunately Dana was later killed that day, so he never got his stripes, but he was a great guy, and 2.5 years ago I visited his grave and brought flags back from his grave and gave them to members of his family.
Visiting this cemetery is important for the veterans because it's their comrades who never returned home. Some of these graves have never received visitors, ever. But these veterans got to pay respects to everyone.
Yeah, the company commander, the morning he was killed, decided to make him a sergeant, but it didn't become official because the battalion headquarters hadn't been informed, so he never got to wear his stripes. He was going to become a sergeant. If it had happened a day or two later, he would have been a sergeant. Well, Dana, good seeing you again. Stick it down there in the grass. Thank you, Michael.
And remind of the sacrifice that these men gave to make a better place in this world. That's the most important thing. They gave up their lives, and I hope America and the world will understand and appreciate what they tried to leave to make a better place to be in here. And I'm very fortunate at this age of 98 to say to these soldiers, I want to thank you all for your sacrifice, even in death.
What I didn't like is when they were processed, they were stripped of their uniforms before being buried. I think they should have buried them in their uniforms.
Yeah.
They didn't. Clean them up.
He was killed in Italy. Do you know why he buried him here? Because his brother was killed here. So they buried the two brothers next to each other.
Oh, those two are brothers.
Yep.
That's what Andy just said, that he was buried here because his brother's here.
Look, and he was killed 3 days.
They put them next to each other.
After his brother, a year later.
Today is a beautiful day, a sad day, but a day, and I hope that the young generation will understand what the young men who gave their lives so that they could live in peace and love. God is with us. I love all of you.
There were 16 million that served in World War II, and I think only 1.5% of us are still alive. So I'm lucky to be one of the survivors.
Before we headed to the Bastogne War Museum, we stopped at a small church in Luxembourg. This is the exact spot Bob spent Christmas Day, 1944 in.
The day that the Germans began their attack that became known as the Battle of the Bulge, 16th of December 1944. The 10th Armored Division was stationed right in the area where Luxembourg, France, and Germany come together, at that triangular point. We were in Perl, P-E-R-L, the first little town inside Germany, on the 16th of December, and of course we were in Patton's Third Army. When Patton got the word that the 10th Armor was needed to reinforce the Bulge, He turned us north, and on the next day, the 17th of December, we were headed here into Luxembourg. I was fortunate to be assigned to 2 companies in our battalion, the 54th Armored Infantry. Company B and Headquarters Company and Service Company had to go up to Bastogne, so those poor guys, they were up there for a month, from the middle of December until the middle of January, and they took pretty heavy casualties. Combat Command A was down here. We went in this direction up northeast of Luxembourg City towards Echternach. This is where we were on Christmas Day of 1944. As I said, this was Company A stationed in this town. Company B was up in the snowy fields of Bastogne, and I felt sorry for those guys.
Do you remember what you prayed for that day?
Yeah, I prayed that I'd still be alive when the war ended. Probably. And here I am, all these many years later.
In this poignant hour, I ask you to join with me in prayer. Almighty God, our sons, pride of our nation, this day have set upon a mighty endeavor, a struggle to preserve our republic, our religion, and our civilization, and to set free a suffering humanity.
The Bastogne War Museum will always be a special place to me, not only for hosting one of my first book signings, but this was the location that we had brought 16 World War II veterans for the 75th anniversary. We hung a bronze plaque which still stands there today, and it was where I got to meet many veterans and VIPs who took great care of us in 2019. Here because this museum was one of the first museums to give me a shot and let me sign books here. Really appreciate the love you guys show these veterans, and just thank you guys. You've come to almost every book signing I've had, and it means the world to me. As I paused for a moment, I looked at all the local Belgians getting their memorabilia signed. Helmets, hats, books, anything. These veterans meant the world to them, and I was so proud to play a part in their return. The Nuts Beer Company made us Rifle Edition beers, special edition for the 78th anniversary of D-Day. And it features the names of all the veterans we're with: 82nd Airborne Robert Heurgue, Anti-Aircraft Gunner Marvin Gilmore, 7th Armored Division John Althuizen, and 10th Armored Division Bob Weber, featured on the back of the bottle. So this is really special. As we headed out of the museum, Joel Lamberti wanted Robert Heurgue to ride with him in his Dodge World War II truck. His smile as we rode through the streets of Bastogne in an authentic World War II vehicle was refreshing. We arrived at the Café Carré, and sure enough, our friends were there to meet us.
This is my favorite pub in Belgium. Oh, yeah? It's Café Carré.
They allowed us to hang the 4 photos of our veterans before we left. It was good for the veterans to see that their photo would hang in that pub forever.
heading to Trier, Germany. This is where the 10th Armored Division slugged it out to conquer one of the first cities in Germany. Bob, in particular, remembered this city very well from the war. While heading to Trier, we stopped in the town of Burdorf. Here, a 10th Armored Division plaque was shown to us by local historian Chris Prettinger.
Yeah, we're at Burdorf, Luxembourg, virtually on the border between Luxembourg and Germany. And this was where the 10th Armored encountered the German 7th Army.
In the area, we explored the Dragon's Teeth. These were former tank obstacles set up after World War I. On the way to Trier, we had to stop by the river that Bob assaulted with the 10th Armored Division. He remembered the battles here very well.
Back in late February of 1945, this was about the 27th, 28th of February, the 10th Armored crossed the Saar River. We could not cross the river here with our vehicles. The 94th Infantry Division had a bridgehead a little further south where our vehicles crossed. And the Germans on the other side of the river had machine guns and mortars and all kinds of artillery pouring fire down on us all that late afternoon and evening as we were crossing the river. But when we got across, we had to claw our way up these steep hills. Most of the ground was slate. I mean, you'd take a step forward and you'd slide back. It took us all night to get to the top of the hill. This was a pretty scary experience. Once we got across the river, then we made our way a little further east to Zerf. And the Germans had the intersection at Zerf zeroed in with their 88s and mortars and stuff like that. And they made it pretty hot for us. We had to pass the town of Peligan, where our company lost about 10 men trying to take that town. They had it heavily defended, and of course they tried their best to prevent us from taking Trier, but they didn't succeed. Trier was the first big city taken by 3rd Army, General Patton's 3rd Army. Higher headquarters had told Patton that he should bypass Trier because it would be too heavily defended. And he said, well, we've already taken it. You want me to give it back?
Coming over here, there was a very great lesson. The first 4 hours, we passed over a destroyed land, utterly destroyed. You who have not seen it do not know what hell looks like from the top. That's what Germany looks like.
While in the city of Trier, we pushed Bob around his former stomping grounds. We visited the Porta Nigra as well as a giant church where heavy combat took place. Today was a long drive day. We had to go from Belgium all the way to the Normandy coast. It was going to be 5 hours, but I know it was going to go by quick. I knew what was going to come in the next few days. We were going to see the beaches of Normandy, both Canadian, British, and American, visit the drop zone of Robert, and see Utah Beach where Marvin Gilmore landed. June 3rd was a big day. Here we were going to take Robert Heurgue back to his drop zone, where he parachuted in some 78 years before.
we headed to the small town of Heurgue.
Glory, glory, what a hell of a way to die. Glory, glory, what a hell of a way to die. Glory, glory, what a hell of a way to die. He ain't gonna jump no more.
Robert was a member of the 82nd Airborne, had never been back to the exact village he dropped in on via parachute on the morning of June 6th, and here the 82nd Airborne Command Staff, along with the commanding general, was going to be waiting for him. As we pulled up and parked in the parking lot of a church, the 82nd Airborne commanding general came over to shake Robert's hand.
The commanding general and the commanding sergeant major came out here to see you come back to Heurgue.
Yeah.
Well, welcome back home.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. Thank you for paving the way for all of us. Yeah, it's an honor to stand in your presence.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, I'm sure.
They walked through the town together and reminisced about World War II. Robert had explained how he landed just outside the town.
So we're gonna find where you entered the house, right? We're gonna find the house.
The house is outside about 100 yards, couple of 100 yards.
We're gonna find it.
I know what it looks like.
Yeah. Well, we'll find it. Let's go.
Do you remember this church?
No, I don't.
It probably looks different from above.
But it was good for the 82nd Airborne veterans to meet someone in which their lineage is drawn from.
Thank you for what you did.
Well, thank you for seeing you all here.
Yeah, we are so happy to be here. We really are. Very, very thankful to meet you. It's amazing. It really is. I hope that you're able to find the place. That's a crazy thing to be a part of. It really is.
Yes. The buildings have been cleaned up. They used to be all black. That's one thing.
It's been 78 years.
You must have ate his great-great-great-grandfather.
Robert, when you were in the plane, what was going through your head? What were you thinking?
Well,
what were you when you were in the C-47 before you jumped out? What was going through your head?
nothing. I was number 2 position.
Number 2?
So I could look out the door.
What'd you see? What'd you see?
It was dark. It was midnight local, 2 o'clock English time. Weather wasn't. A little windy.
A little windy? Was it cold when you landed, or was it warm?
Oh, it was cold. We were supposed to jump on the 5th, but the weather was bad. We jumped on the 6th.
And right now we're with representatives from the 82nd Airborne, including the commanding general here who joined Robert here. We're in the vicinity of where he landed. We'll never ever be able to pinpoint an exact spot. Robert knows for sure he landed in this area because he could speak and write French. And when he broke into one of these houses, he found an address label on an envelope that said Heurgue. And then he knew he was about 8 miles from St. Mary-Église.
Robert, when you hit the drop zone, what did you do first? What did you do first when you hit the drop zone?
Tried to get out of my parachute, which was very difficult.
And you said you were pretty well armed, right? You said you had, what, 21 clips of ammunition? You said you had 21 clips of ammunition?
Yeah, 21.
And so demolitions, what, it had some composition B?
Composition C.
Okay. And put your stuff into action, and did you link up with anybody? Did you see anybody else from the 82nd with you, or any other American soldiers?
No, I was all by myself. The first one I met was 101st. I landed in the 101st zone.
And
so he had a cricket. He asked for a password. I asked for a password, or he's going around with a cricket. Click, click, click. Yeah. That was the 101st. We didn't have that. They were going click, click. I said, what the heck is that noise, you know?
And did you run into any civilians?
The place, the towns were empty. It's very odd. We went through a small town with nobody. The people are gone. It looked odd. You find an empty, all of a sudden there's nobody there. They didn't show up until later. They all went someplace else. I don't blame them.
When you came over the drop zone, was your aircraft taking flak? Could you hear the ack-ack?
We had ack-ack when we were halfway across Normandy. That's where we caught a lot of ack-ack and the planes scattered. Been a long time. Looks different. All white, all cleaned up.
Former French citizen and then now a newly minted American citizen, how did it feel jumping out of your aircraft and landing back in France?
I was the only one going back home.
And when you fought all throughout Europe, you made a combat jump here, a combat jump into Holland. And how did it feel when you got back home to Paris in 1945?
That was great.
I heard you knocked on the door of your house, and who answered the door?
My mother. My mother and my aunt was there. It was on a Thursday.
What was your favorite weapon during the war? Did you like the Garand?
M1 was good.
The best one? The guys didn't like the carbine, did they? The M1 carbine.
No. But actually it was good. I had a lot of ammunition. It was small, but the M1 was really powerful.
If you can say anything to the current paratroopers today, what advice would you give them?
It was a good organization to be in. A lot of friendly people were good, reliable.
Did you like jumping out of airplanes?
What?
Did you like jumping out of airplanes?
Not especially, no.
Was the $50 extra pay worth it?
$50 was good, yeah. At the time, that was quite a bit of money. Twice as much as you were getting paid.
It's not that much more now. It's only $150 now.
Hey, Robert, on behalf of 19,000 paratroopers, small commanding general and sergeant major's coin for excellence, but thank you for paving the way for all of us. We'll never forget what you did here.
Well, I'm glad to see you all.
Yeah.
It's been a long time.
Yeah. God bless you, Robert. God bless you. Airborne.
Later we met Flo Plana, who introduced us to a woman who lived through the war. To have Robert, who could actually speak French because he was born in Paris, meet this French woman was remarkable. This woman we're meeting is about 89 years old and was a little girl when you guys came through here. She was here when you and your friends landed.
Bienvenue à Heurgue.
Bonjour, madame.
She's inviting you, Robert. Elle vous a dit rentrer, elle vous invite à rentrer.
Voilà.
Met a 95-year-old lady by the name of Denise who had lived there and was in Turkeville and had been there since she was 17. And she graciously invited us into her garden and back where Robert and her had a very lengthy conversation in French. I think that was his most memorable part of that day in this trip, is just being able to connect with someone who was also there 78 years ago.
Wow.
C'est grand à entretenir. Hein?
Beautiful.
Beaucoup de travail.
Vous avez un beau jardin?
Ben oui. Asseyez-vous au débarquement.
She said that she was here on D-Day. Je traduis juste ce que vous dites.
Voilà.
Et vous vous rappelez, vous, des premiers avions, des premiers parachutistes?
Oh ben bien sûr qu'on les voyait descendre.
She remembers all the paratroopers going down, you know, in Heurgue.
Et puis ça tirait de partout.
There were a lot of fights.
On habitait, les parents et moi, enfin toute ma famille,
Oui.
on habitait la grande ferme ici auprès du lavoir.
So they were living in the big farm where we first met, you know, where we parked, just the big farm just behind, you know, just a block away.
Alors, il y avait une compagnie, il y avait des Allemands qui logeaient à Heurgue. Heurgue a toujours été occupée.
She's saying that the town was occupied by the Germans, and it's been always like that, you know, for 4 years it was like always Germans.
Alors, nous étions dans la ferme, mes parents et moi, puis ma famille. Tout d'un coup, les Allemands, ils mettaient leurs blessés dans la maison chez nous.
Her house actually became a first aid station for many wounded Germans. They crowded her home, yelling and begging for God's help, and she was so young she had to cover her ears because of how torturous it sounded for a young girl.
People were badly wounded, so people were yelling, people were stressed, you know, the Germans, because the Americans were all around, and her parents were like, oh, my poor children, we're gonna get killed. They were like just in the middle of the chaos.
Et alors de là, on est parti dans l'église.
So from there, they took that same street we took with the car, and they were hiding in the church.
Dans l'église, les Allemands ont arrivé, ils nous ont fait sortir de l'église, baïonnette au canon.
The Germans went in the church, but actually the Georgians went into the church and put their bayonet on the guns and asked all the French to get out of the church.
Et de là, on est parti dans l'école avec la maîtresse d'école, son mari, ses enfants.
So afterwards, they were hiding in the French school. So they were just trying to find a place to hide because everybody was fighting around.
Alors, il y avait...
So the school where they were, she doesn't really know if it's the Germans or the Americans, but there were some different, how do you call that, grenades, burned the roof.
Incendiary grenade.
Exactly, and so actually the school where they were started to burn.
In the city of St. Mary-Église, we were invited to lunch by our good friend Rene. He runs a great establishment right outside the main church where paratroopers landed in and around during the fight for the town. Robert and I got to look at the model of John Steele hanging from the steeple, and we talked about how many paratroopers landed in not so favorable spots, both on trees and buildings in the area.
So we just came from where you landed about 3 miles away.
Yes.
And your next objective was to make your way towards St. Mary-Église.
Yes.
And can you tell me a little bit about that?
Waited until daylight. When daylight came, we started walking and we got into St. Mary-Église.
And you told me something earlier about the trees.
Yeah, there were parachutes hanging in the trees with paratroopers that landed here. One was flying it up in the church, but there was some hanging up in the trees. They were shot by the Germans.
They were shot?
They didn't have the quick release parachute. You couldn't get out. You can get out of that parachute. You have 3 straps to undo. It was very hard to undo it.
And from here, you said you moved on and an MG-42 had shot at you.
We were walking, we were camped outside Sainte-Mère-Église, and we came walking to Sainte-Mère-Église in the main street, and a plane came down. We didn't hear the plane, we just heard machine gun fire and bullets landing right in front of us. Some plane came, fighter plane came down and strafed us. He missed us because if he had lowered his nose a little more, he would have hit the house. So we were lucky. The bullets landed about 20 feet in front of us, all over the place.
And you told me a German machine gun had opened up on you on patrol.
We were walking through the hedgerows. Hedgerows, you've seen it. You don't see anything. And obviously there was some Germans. I was with a small group. We were moving forward through the hedgerows. I was at the head of the column, and a machine gun opened up on me and I hit the ground. The platoon turned around, went back. They called me. I didn't answer them. I didn't want to let them know they missed me. And slowly I went back and joined them.
On the church steeple in St. Mary-Église hangs a model of paratrooper John Steele.
John Steele was a paratrooper with the 82nd Airborne, had already jumped into Sicily, served in Italy as well, and jumped into, on June 6th, jumped in here in St. Mary-Église, and he claims that his parachute got caught on the steeple here, and that eventually two German POWs had pulled him into the church steeple, took him prisoner, and then he was able to get away.
While the tale of John Steele still remains a mystery, Robert will never let the legacy go that John did land on that church.
Rob says he remembers coming in here and seeing an empty parachute up there. So.
Oh yes, it's true. He landed on.
And did you see a parachute?
Yeah. He landed like that.
Before we had even left for the trip, I had learned John Althuizen's story with the 7th Armored Division. Here was a young boy who could speak nearly 5 languages that was attached to the 7th Armored Division. He was wounded twice and went through hell. In the 1950s, the U.S. Army gave him permission to wear all uniform medals as well as the 7th Armored Division patch. However, he was never properly pinned a Purple Heart on his chest by an Army officer. When we arrived to the Normandy Victory Museum, I made sure that 78 years later, this would happen.
7th Armored Division, John Althuizen. He was actually a Dutch resistance fighter first, became an interpreter, and then became a soldier and fought with them and was wounded in the Battle of the Bulge and wounded in Germany as well. John Althuizen.
Ok, donc John, en fait, lui, il est hollandais. Il était dans la résistance hollandaise et ensuite il a servi dans...
He was only paid by food or when soldiers would pass their hat around to put money in it. He served from Holland throughout the Battle of the Bulge, got frozen feet, was wounded with shrapnel, and then finally his last and severe wound is when he was blown off from riding in a tank in Blav, Germany, and he got a big wound in his leg. Most men are pinned a Purple Heart on their chest, like a real soldier, and John never got that opportunity. So today, the United States Army is going to officially pin your Purple Heart on your chest, like a real soldier. To all who shall see these presents, greetings. This is to certify that the President of the United States has awarded the Purple Heart, established by General George Washington at Newburgh, New York on August 7, 1782, to John Althuizen, Dutch Resistance and 7th Armored Division, for wounds received in action during combat operations in Belgium in January of 45 and Germany, April of 45, given under my hand at the city of Carentan, France, this 3rd day of June. Army Captain Darren Sentinel gave John the honor of pinning his Purple Heart on him finally, like a real true soldier.
Yes.
My name is Matt Sheehan. I'm son-in-law of John Althuizen, who is being honored. The most moving part of seeing John receive his Purple Heart was what he looked in his eyes and he felt he did something wrong. And we didn't tell him on purpose about it because we knew it'd be nervous. And when he found out what it was, he just got the hugest smile on his face, looked out at his wife, who was just tearing up, and myself at that point, looking at them, I just lost it. It was just such an emotional moment, and it gave him such pride because there's so much. He has so much pride in what he did, and he never received anything for it.
He always wanted this done, and he was always upset about the fact that he never got a pin, and it was truly a great honor.
Here's a young Dutch boy who left his home and put his life on the line like any American soldier to help rid Nazism through Europe. His translation skills probably saved the lives of hundreds of Americans. This deserved to happen a lot sooner, but it was better late than never. As we pinned the Purple Heart on him, he didn't realize what was happening until he looked down. Then you could tell his emotions had shifted. He was that 18-year-old boy again. Bless you.
You should do your duty in the army and to fight for freedom.
All 4 veterans got to collectively sit on stage and do a Q&A with the French civilians who were dying to meet them. I was able to conduct my last book signing of the trip at the Normandy Victory Museum, and once again it was a sellout crowd. Hundreds lined up of those who already had the book and those who wanted to purchase more books. The signatures of these veterans were important to every one of these people because they always wanted to remember the day they met an American World War II veteran. In the morning we woke up and my friends from England joined us. My buddy Jay had a hood of a Willys Jeep that he had all the World War II veterans sign. He was another avid World War II enthusiast and often has his rifle signed by veterans in England. That morning after breakfast we headed for the small village of Angleville. Here was a tremendous story of American paratrooper medics who took care of both German and American soldiers. The stained glass windows featured images of both the 101st Airborne and 82nd Airborne. It's a beautiful church with bullet holes still located in it, and our veterans got to attend a ceremony outside. Hundreds of people attended the ceremonies in Angleville, including the surviving children of those medics who helped so many people that day. Reenactors crowded the streets, and local officials honored our veterans and remembered the heroic deeds done by the veterans fighting in combat in Normandy.
we join in offering our thanks to the Providence which has guided and sustained us through the dark days of adversity and into light.
Later that day, we had lunch at the Big Red One Museum. It was awesome for me to meet some other World War II veterans and have them sign the bayonet that attaches to the famous rifle. As we were ready to leave, the Band of Brothers Band began playing some authentic 1940s music. John Althuizen got up from his wheelchair and began to dance with them. This made him feel young again. Our last and final stop for the day was Omaha Beach.
Almighty God, our sons, pride of our nation, this day have set upon a mighty endeavor, a struggle to preserve our republic, our religion, and our civilization, and to set free a suffering humanity.
While we were here, it wasn't just the veterans that felt so powerful to be back on this spot, but many of the volunteers of the trip came up to me and thanked me for bringing them on this trip. This was also their first time to Omaha Beach. Omaha Beach is so significant to us Americans because it was the bloodiest landing spot in the Normandy landings for our U.S. troops. The 29th Division and the Big Red One 1st Infantry Division lost many men here in the mornings of June 6th. On the beach and surrounding areas was already thousands of people that were reenactors, tourists, and those coming back to see where their grandfathers and fathers landed some 78 years before. We truly were on sacred ground.
Give strength to their arms, stoutness to their hearts, steadfastness in their faith. They will need thy blessings. Their road will be long and hard. Darkness will be rent by noise and flame. Men's souls will be shaken with the violences of war. For these men are lately drawn from the ways of peace. They fight not for the lust of conquest. They fight to end conquest. They fight to liberate. They fight to let justice arise and tolerance and goodwill among all thy people.
On this morning, we decided to attend the ceremonies at the Pegasus Memorial Bridge. Here's where many British veterans landed by glider to secure their part of the Normandy operations. It was important for our World War II veterans as Americans to attend a British ceremony to remember that we'll always be forever allies.
We are in a very different position from that we were in 10 weeks ago. We are far stronger than we were 10 weeks ago. We are far better prepared to endure the worst malice of Hitler and his Huns than we were at the beginning of September.
The veterans themselves were greeted like rock stars. Even though the event was geared to the United Kingdom, they were so glad to have American veterans present as well. It was a beautiful event, and I was glad the veterans could support other veterans from their fellow countries that helped win World War II. After that, we carried on to Utah Beach, the landing spot for Marvin Gilmore.
As was expected, the Germans, being on the receiving end, first announced to the world this morning's great Allied invasion of France. Through the hours of darkness, the vast invasion armada steamed toward the French coast. Thousands of assault and landing craft, covered by fleets of Allied warships, and all operating under cover of a vast Allied air umbrella. This was the culmination toward which the vast headquarters organization of General Eisenhower, Supreme Commander, Allied Expeditionary Force, has been working for many months.
As we arrived at Utah Beach, I could see Marvin Gilmore's attitude start to change. This truly was a symbolic spot for him.
I've been here, I fought here on Utah Beach. I fought here in Utah, yeah.
He was a young African-American veteran at an anti-aircraft battalion, and not soon after he landed did he transfer to Graves Registration. He helped take casualties off this very beach, stuff that would haunt him forever.
Yes, this is where we landed on D-Day, here, exactly in this spot. In those early days, we lost quite a few men.
You just told me, you said you remember those very marshes right here.
Marshes, and we have the pictures of it right here.
Yeah, let's take a little.
Take a look.
For me to walk the sand with one of the first black Americans to land on Utah Beach is something I'll never forget. Marvin's enemy wasn't only the Germans, but racism.
Because at that time, remember that we were segregated, American white and American blacks. So I went down to get on the boat. The sergeant says, "You're black, you cannot go with white American soldiers." So I had to stay another 6 months waiting for a little tugboat to take me across the Atlantic back home.
So my father, Marvin Gilmore, actually volunteered for the Army because there was the understanding that they would be able to choose their own outfit, choose their own line in the Army. Of course, that didn't work out for everybody the way they had planned. But one thing I learned from his book was that they saw, when I say they, African Americans, saw that if the Nazis win in Europe, they are 10 times more screwed at home in America, already fighting Jim Crow, already fighting racism, already fighting a segregated army and everything that comes with it. So that is heavy, and he carries that with him even to this memorial for D-Day.
For him to stand proudly there and for all those people to circle him, take pictures and treat him like a hero is almost the exact opposite of how he was treated on an everyday life in the Army in the 1940s. Although I offered Marvin a wheelchair, he wanted to stand proudly there with his cane on Utah Beach. I could tell now more than ever the memories flooded his brain.
Everything's the same there, as you can see it. And we went straight right through that culvert, right through there. And that's why I was showing the pictures how far back we did. I never realized that I would be here today to see what I had to go through with my men fighting what we had to endure. But however, I'm here at Utah Beach, and we lost, I would say, a good 50% of our Army soldiers who died. But we had to pick them up and then put them on a truck immediately. We never left our men on the beach.
So part of the Red Ball Express and Graves Registration is you had to take the casualties, put them on the truck immediately, and get them to a temporary spot.
Correct. Wasn't the thing to do it, you know. However, today is a day of memories that will never leave me and others who are still, hopefully still living today. But I'm so proud to come back here and see where we once was. I don't know whether any one of my men is still alive. I've reached a proud 97 years. I'll be 98 this year. So And there's not many of us still around are proud to say, you know, this is where I've been, this is where I fought. And this, hopefully, that the younger generation can see what we fought for to make this world and this life a better way to live in rather than be fighting and killing and shooting.
Amen.
Thank you.
Amen. Thank you. Can I have a hug?
It wasn't easy.
No, it wasn't. Yeah.
It wasn't easy.
Watching my father walk down the path towards Utah Beach, literally approaching the same spot that he landed 78 years ago to the day, was an honor.
Lead us to the saving of our country, and with our sister nations into a world unity that will spell a sure peace, a peace invulnerable to the schemings of unworthy men, and a peace that will let all men live in freedom.
As the crowd continued to grow, I knew Marvin was losing his privacy, so this was the best time to head back to the restaurant and coffee shop on the beach. There, all the veterans got to sign their names on the wall, but the first signature I noticed was from my first veteran I ever brought to Normandy. This is Francis X. Murphy. He's the first veteran I ever brought back to Normandy in 78 years, and he signed the wall. He's since passed away, and we miss him very much, and I'm thinking about him a lot on this trip. As we headed back to our bus, 2 C-130s flew overhead. It was almost like they were doing a flyover for us. Woo! It was truly symbolic to what the day represented. The first stop on our last day couldn't be anywhere better than the Dick Winters Monument. Major Dick Winters was one of the Easy Company commanders during the Second World War, in which the miniseries Band of Brothers is based around.
First, let me introduce myself. My name is Lieutenant Colonel Dale Maru. I'm the current commander of 2nd Battalion 506, the same battalion from when Dick Winters served here in World War II and jumped into Normandy. And I'm very happy to be here. Today we mark the 78th anniversary of Operation Overlord and the beginning of the Great Crusade to overthrow Nazi Germany and free occupied Europe. So it's a great day to be here in front of this statue. Looking back through the lens of 78 years of history, we must recognize the impact and legacy this endeavor and sacrifice has left in the modern world. The veil of time has turned the invasion of Europe into war stories and fables. Most of us did not live it. They are maps and pictures in a book, and we have lost the personal nature of such a monumental undertaking. On this day, 15 nations gathered their might in order to thrust 156,000 men onto the continent with no guarantee of success. These men and nations came together across oceans and gambled with their lives they might bring order and freedom back to the world. Some 4,900 men would not survive the day, and 37,000 would not see summer's end. But their legacy lives on. It's represented physically in the statue that we stand before, in the cemeteries that dot the Norman countryside, and in monuments and statues across the world. More importantly, their legacy lives in the alliances and brotherhood born of the Second World War. Alliances and friendships that have held through the strain of decades and that still fight back against the evils of the world. Alliances that stemmed the tide in Korea, that fought back terrorism across the globe and in the mountains of Afghanistan, and that have gathered to protect Eastern Europe against a new and growing threat. The legacy in these alliances were born on the sacrifice of young men and women, bonded together in common cause, that people may live free from tyranny and oppression. It has been my great privilege to serve and train with our allies across the globe over the last 20 years. In some small way, we all continue the bonds created here at Normandy 78 years ago.
Before the official D-Day commemorations on Utah Beach, we stopped in the town of St. Mary du Mont, where the 4th Infantry Division marched through 78 years before. Here we got to see a local church where fighting had taken place, as well as a lot of my friends, fellow researchers, and historians had gathered before the commemorations.
This is the Church of Sainte Marie du Monde. Now, Sainte Marie du Monde is located on one of the causeways coming in from Utah Beach. You probably have noticed that this is a very tall church, one of the tallest in this area. It's very clear that the steeple would be the perfect spot for an outpost or guys on guard duty watching the Utah Beach sector, but also for the Germans. So if you can use that as a watch post, it means that everybody you're looking at, they can see you too.
It was good to reunite with everybody. It had been a long time since COVID restrictions.
And it was nice to have a little calmness on June 6th.
While at the Utah Beach commemorations, we got to link up with the Best Defense Foundation, Donnie Edwards, as well as some other 30-plus World War II veterans who were there for the official D-Day celebrations. Local dignitaries, U.S. ambassadors, and Army generals joined us on Utah Beach for the 78th anniversary of D-Day.
We're at Utah Beach where the official ceremony is being held this year. All 4 of our veterans were given the option to rest, but still they want to be here for the official inauguration and commemoration of all of these monuments and memorials dedicated to those who gave their lives to liberate Europe. You know, it's kind of sad because this is the end, but we really did everything. We checked every box to meet these guys' requirements, to revisit the battlefields, meet people that have been liberated and care for the veterans so much. I think we've done absolutely everything in our best to honor the veterans, honor the fallen, and honor the grateful Europeans from France, Belgium, Holland, Germany.
At 6:30, the lead element of the 4th Infantry Division, the 8th Infantry Regiment, the Fighting Eagles, landed on this beach. In front of them were over 700 yards of open beach that they must cross under enemy machine gun fire and breach an anti-tank wall to assault a German stronghold. 78 years ago, the world changed forever as the 4th Infantry Division arrived at this beach.
After the official commemorations, we headed to the Overlord Museum. Here, I was thankful to sign over 100 books for the Best Defense Foundation and their World War II veterans, caregivers, and volunteers. I met so many Iraq and Afghanistan veterans who were volunteering to help World War II veterans through their journey in Normandy. We took a picture together with Donnie Edwards, and he helped promote my book.
He writes books and he gets stories. And how many veterans have you interviewed so far?
312 veterans I've interviewed and have signed my M1 rifle. It's the most signatures on an M1 rifle possibly in the world. I'm an Iraq vet, I'm an Afghanistan veteran. These World War II veterans mean the world to me because we put on a uniform to be you. We wanted to be you. When 9/11 happened, we got out Pearl Harbor. We didn't ask what the mission was, where to go. We just wanted to be just like you guys. And when we see how happy these people are that you liberated them and they celebrate you, we get that celebration too in our hearts. So thank you, and thank you to the French, Belgian, Dutch, and German people who have supported us.
10 long days is not easy for men over the age of 98. Bus rides, changing hotels, events, commemorations. I can only hope that I gave these men one of the best trips of their lives. To see the faces of so many Dutch, Belgian, German, and French people light up seeing a real live World War II veteran, something they don't see every day since they've been born, meant the world to them. They'll never forget the day they collected Marvin, Bob's, and Robert's, and John's signature on their book or helmet or uniform. I'll never forget John's face when he got his Purple Heart. I'll never forget Marvin's face going up to the Worth 11 massacre site, Robert's face as we marched through the town of Turkelville, or Bob as we wheeled him through the town of Trier, Germany. These are historic moments that will live forever, beyond my book, beyond this documentary, and beyond our lives watching and reading. This is why the rifle mission is so important, because their legacies will live on forever.
United, the peace-loving nations have demonstrated in the West that their arms are stronger by far than the might of dictators or the tyranny of military cliques that once called us soft and weak.